What if I told you that the courtroom showdown between Martell Holt and Melody Shari ended with a verdict no one saw coming? A decision so shocking it left fans in tears, critics speechless, and the entire internet on fire. Was justice truly served? Or has the system failed yet again? Stay with me, because what happened inside that courtroom will change everything you thought you knew about this war. The courtroom battle that has gripped fans for months has finally reached its conclusion, and the outcome is nothing short of shocking. What began as a storm of accusations, public feuds, and raw emotion has now ended with a verdict no one saw coming. But was justice truly served? Or has the system failed yet again? What unfolded between Martell Holt and Melody Shari in that courtroom is rewriting everything their supporters thought they knew. For those who've followed this saga, welcome back. You already know this story is bigger than typical gossips, a collision of love, betrayal, and the harsh glare of the public eye. Martell and Melody's legal showdown has dominated timelines, blogs, and reality TV chatter for months. Fans dissected every twist, while critics speculated endlessly about which side would walk away victorious. Now that the final ruling has been announced, emotions are boiling over. Outrage, disbelief, and heartbreak are flooding the fan base. The questions remain: what persuaded the judge? And what does this mean for Martell, Melody, and the children caught in the middle? To understand the weight of this decision, we have to go back. Reality TV may thrive on drama, but in Martell and Melody's case, the conflict extended far beyond the cameras. Once admired as a power couple on Love and Marriage, Huntsville, their marriage crumbled under infidelity and mistrust. Martell's affair didn't just fracture his relationship with Melody, it shattered the family unit they had built together. Melody, unwilling to endure any more betrayal, chose divorce, stepping into single motherhood with determination. But instead of resolution, their split only set the stage for an even fiercer battle: custody of their children. Custody disputes are always painful, and this one was no exception. Both parents fought to prove the other unfit. Martell accused Melody of letting her busy career overshadow her role as a mother. Melody countered by pointing to Martell's reckless choices and the instability she said he brought into their children's lives. The courtroom wasn't their only arena. Social media quickly became a battleground of its own. Fans rallied in camps, some applauding Melody's resilience as a protective mother, others backing Martell's insistence that fathers deserve equal standing in raising their children. Behind the online noise, however, the legal process dragged on with motions, delays, and escalating tension. Those close to the former couple described the fight as brutal, a war where neither side would truly win, and the children risked becoming collateral damage. By the time the final hearing arrived, the anticipation was electric. Court insiders described the scene as one of the most intense showdowns in Huntsville's recent memory. And then came the twist. The day Martell Holt and Melody Shari finally faced each other in court. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Reporters, bloggers, and even eager fans hung on every detail, hoping to catch a glimpse of the truth. This wasn't just another custody case, it was a public reckoning between two figures whose private lives had already been broadcast to millions. Both arrived flanked by their attorneys, armed with months of evidence and emotion, prepared for a verdict that could redefine not just their future as parents, but their identities in the public eye. Inside the courtroom, both sides came armed with narratives designed to sway the judge's view of what good parenting really looks like. Martell's attorneys framed him as a hands-on father whose involvement in his children's daily lives should not be overshadowed by the mistakes he made as a husband. They spoke of his desire for structure, stability, and more time with the kids, painting him as a man determined to preserve his family bond. Melody's team, however, countered with a meticulous case complete with documents and testimony that underscored her reality as a single mother of 4. They reminded the court of the hurdles she had faced, balancing a high-profile career while still providing a safe, nurturing home where the children continued to thrive. Their message was clear. Despite the pressures, Melody had built an environment where her kids were flourishing. Then the courtroom shifted. Testimony unveiled sharp accusations that flew like arrows between the two camps. Melody's side pointed to Martell's history, his temper, questionable decisions, and the very public scandal of his affair. These, they argued, raised troubling doubts about his judgment as a parent. Martell refused to stand quietly by. He argued that Melody's obligations, her businesses, speaking engagements, and television appearances often stretched her too thin, leaving the children craving consistency that he could provide. But it was the evidence that followed that truly turned heads. Witness statements and court documents detailed chaotic moments in Martell's home life, heated arguments, disrupted routines, and incidents where the children felt caught in the middle. Suddenly, the polished image Martell presented seemed to crack, replaced with an unsettling picture of instability. For many observers, it was the confirmation they had long suspected. The role of devoted father was far more complicated beneath the surface. When Melody took the stand, the energy shifted again. Her testimony was unfiltered and deeply personal. She spoke not as a TV personality but as a mother who had endured sleepless nights, children's tears, and the daunting task of rebuilding life after betrayal. Her words carried weight, her emotion raw enough to move not only the audience but the court itself. She painted herself as a mother, not simply surviving but fiercely protecting her children's world. Martell, too, had his moment. His plea was emotional, centered on the irreplaceable role of a father. He spoke about love, sacrifice, and the importance of being present in his children's lives. For a brief moment, his words reminded everyone that beneath the bitterness and the headlines, this case revolved around 4 children who loved both their parents. What became clear as arguments volleyed back and forth was that this fight wasn't just about custody, it was about identity, reputation, and the desperate need to be recognized as the better parent. The stakes stretched far beyond the courtroom walls. This ruling would define how Martell and Melody were seen for years to come. Then came the twist. After days of mounting tension, the judge finally delivered the verdict. The courtroom fell silent as the decision was read. Both parents leaned in, bracing for the words that would shape their children's futures. The judge acknowledged the difficulty of the case, especially given the spotlight it carried. But above all, the court stressed its responsibility, not to appease public opinion or punish past mistakes, but to act in the best interest of the children. That phrase, the best interest of the children, became the foundation of the ruling. The judge recognized Melody for providing a consistent, stable home where routines were intact and emotional well-being was prioritized. Yes, her career was demanding, but the court noted that she had managed to balance her professional commitments while still ensuring her role as a mother came first. When it came time to assess Martell, the judge acknowledged what no one could deny: his love for his children and his desire to be part of their lives. But love alone wasn't enough to outweigh the troubling evidence that had surfaced. Testimony of volatile arguments, inconsistencies in routines, and a home environment that sometimes left the children unsettled weighed heavily in the court's judgment. Then the moment everyone had been waiting for arrived. The ruling was announced. Melody Shari would be awarded primary custody, while Martell Holt would retain visitation rights under specific conditions. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Even those who had expected Melody to prevail were caught off guard by how decisively the court sided in her favor. The judge made it clear this wasn't about punishing Martell, but about ensuring that children had stability and structure. He could remain present in their lives. But the days of making unilateral parenting decisions were over. For Melody, the moment was emotional. Witnesses described her eyes welling up as the order was finalized. Supporters said she looked relieved but also humbled by the weight of the decision. This wasn't a victory she wanted to celebrate with cameras rolling. It was simply the step she felt was necessary to protect her children. Martell's reaction told a different story. His expression shifted from disappointment to visible frustration before settling into a cold, silent acceptance. Though his legal team publicly stated they respected the ruling, whispers circulated almost immediately. Martell was considering an appeal. Outside the courtroom, the fallout was immediate. Social media erupted in a frenzy of hashtags, memes, and heated debates. Supporters of Melody hailed the decision as vindication for a mother who had endured betrayal, humiliation, and relentless public criticism. Hashtags like #JusticeForMelody and #ProtectBlackMothers began trending, with many women saying they felt personally validated by her triumph. But Martell wasn't without defenders. Loyal fans accused the system of bias against fathers, insisting he had been unfairly cast as the villain in the story. But as much as the ruling closed one chapter, it ignited a storm outside the courtroom. Within minutes, Twitter feeds were flooded, Instagram timelines overflowed with commentary, and YouTube channels scrambled to deliver hot takes. For Melody, this was seen as a hard-earned validation of her strength. For Martell, it was a public reckoning that seemed to chip away at his image even further. Critics accused him of using fatherhood as a weapon against Melody, while memes circulated, portraying him as bitter and defeated. Unsurprisingly, Martell did not stay silent. Within days, he took to social media with cryptic captions and carefully worded statements. In a live stream, he reassured fans of his love for his children, stressing that the court's ruling did not change his role as their father. Some viewers saw a man genuinely hurting, stripped of the influence he believed he deserved. Others, however, dismissed his words as another attempt to play the victim while sidestepping accountability. Entertainment outlets seized the moment, framing the case as one of reality TV's most dramatic custody battles. Think pieces emerged about the harsh realities of co-parenting in the public eye, and about how fame magnifies the struggles of already fragile family dynamics. Meanwhile, speculation swirled about how the fallout would play out on Love and Marriage. Huntsville. Would the cameras capture Melody's quiet relief, Martell's frustration, and the ripple effects on their families? Fans were certain the storyline would dominate the next season, and producers surely knew they had struck ratings gold. Behind the buzz, however, the reality was far more sobering. Those close to Melody shared that she remained cautious. She might have won the battle, but she knew the war wasn't necessarily over. Appeals could still be filed, and navigating co-parenting with someone you'd just faced in court is never easy. Her priority, they said, was shielding her children from the chaos and giving them a sense of normalcy. As for Martell, rumors of an appeal continued to swirl. Some sources claimed he was quietly exploring legal options, while others suggested he was focusing more on salvaging his reputation and maintaining whatever connection he could with his children under the court's terms. Meanwhile, the fanbase refused to move on. Debates raged across forums, Facebook groups, and Instagram comment sections. For many, the ruling confirmed what they had long believed, that Melody was the more stable parent. For others, Martell remained a father fighting a biased system, but one question lingered above all the noise. After everything that had unfolded in court, could Martell and Melody truly put aside their resentment to co-parent effectively? Or was this ruling just the beginning of an even deeper and more complicated chapter? So what comes next? Can Martell and Melody ever reach a place of peace as co-parents? Or has this ruling only set the stage for more resentment, more public clashes, and more battles both inside and outside the courtroom? If the past is any indication, one decision isn't enough to close the book on their story. Instead, it feels like the beginning of an entirely new chapter, one that will shape not only their children's futures, but also how Martell and Melody are remembered in the public eye. This ruling wasn't just another sensational headline in the world of reality television. It was a mirror reflecting the struggles countless families face when love breaks down and parenting becomes a battlefield. Yes, their fame made the conflict louder, more public, and impossible to escape, but at its core, this was about two parents fighting to protect their children. For many viewers, it struck a personal chord. They recognized their own pain in Melody's tears, their own frustrations in Martell's arguments, the sleepless nights, the weight of a judge's decision, the feeling of your family being split apart. Those experiences transcended the television screen and turned their story into something deeply relatable. The case also sparked larger debates. Was this ruling purely evidence-based, or did it reflect a societal bias that tends to favor mothers as primary caregivers? Supporters of Melody pointed to her stability, resilience, and the nurturing environment she built for her children. Martell's defenders argued that his efforts as an engaged father were overshadowed by his past mistakes, and that the system often sidelines men in custody disputes. These conversations reached far beyond the Huntsville courthouse, tapping into cultural questions about parenting, gender, and fairness. And then there's the added weight of the spotlight. Unlike most exes navigating custody, Martell and Melody can't fade quietly into private life. They are co-stars, co-parents, and public figures whose every post, interview, or offhand comment has the potential to spark a new firestorm. Co-parenting in the public eye comes with challenges most families will never face, and every move they make will continue to be dissected by fans and critics alike. For Melody, this ruling represents a chance to give her children the stability she has fought tirelessly to maintain. For Martell, it's a moment of reckoning. Will he accept the judgment, step into a healthier role, and focus on building peace? Or will he continue the battle both in court and in the arena of public opinion? Only time will reveal the answer. One thing is certain: this ruling is a turning point. It proves, without a doubt, that fame doesn't shield anyone from the realities of family court. Cameras, interviews, and millions of fans may amplify the story. But at the end of the day, the law looks at one thing: the best interests of the children. And in this case, the court made it clear that stability, consistency, and emotional security mattered more than headlines or reputations. When children are involved, the stakes are higher than any reality TV drama, and the consequences reach far beyond social media debates. The world will keep watching as Martell and Melody attempt to navigate their new reality. Will this become a story of healing, growth, and successful co-parenting? Or will it spiral into another cycle of public chaos, courtroom filings, and social media battles that their children will inevitably feel? That question looms large, not just for their fans, but for anyone who has followed their journey from love, to heartbreak, to legal warfare. For Melody, the ruling has positioned her as both victor and guardian. To her supporters, she represents resilience, the mother who endured betrayal, humiliation, and relentless attacks, yet managed to hold on to her strength. She fought not for public approval, but for the well-being of her 4 children, and the court recognized that. But victory doesn't erase the difficulties ahead. Co-parenting with someone you've faced in court is never simple, especially when emotions are raw and the world is watching. Her challenge now is to shield her kids from the noise while building the sense of normalcy they deserve. For Martell, the verdict was undoubtedly a blow. His desire to prove himself as an equal parent collided with evidence that raised questions about his consistency and decision-making. To some, this ruling diminished him, reinforcing a narrative that he is the unstable one in the relationship. To others, though he remains a father fighting an uphill battle in a system they believe is inherently biased against men. His next steps will define not only his future with his children but also how the public continues to perceive him. Will he appeal, reigniting the fight, or will he focus on fulfilling the court's requirements and demonstrating growth? His actions in the coming months may matter more than any testimony given in the trial. But beyond Martell and Melody's personal story, this case struck a cultural nerve. It forced viewers to confront uncomfortable questions about gender, fairness, and parenting. Do mothers naturally get an advantage in custody cases? Or was this ruling a straightforward reflection of the facts? Should past personal mistakes, such as infidelity, influence a parent's right to custody if their role as a parent is otherwise strong? And how much should a parent's career or public image factor into their ability to raise their children? These are the questions that families across the country grapple with, even if their stories don't trend on Twitter or make the front page of entertainment blogs. Then there's the issue of visibility. Unlike most parents, Martell and Melody can't fade into private life. Their dynamic plays out in front of cameras, blogs, and millions of followers who have opinions, alliances, and expectations. Every Instagram post becomes a statement. Every interview becomes a battlefield. For the children, this means growing up in a world where their parents' disagreements aren't whispered behind closed doors but dissected publicly by strangers. That reality comes with its own weight, one that the court ruling cannot erase. Still, perhaps there's an opportunity here. The counseling order issued by the judge isn't just a formality, it's a lifeline. If both Martell and Melody can commit to putting aside their personal grievances, co-parenting counseling could open the door to a healthier future for their children. It could transform the narrative from one of endless conflict to one of redemption and maturity. But if the lessons go unlearned, the counseling becomes just another box to check while the animosity festers beneath the surface. So, what do you think? Was the judge's decision the right one? Did Melody's victory truly reflect justice? Or was Martell unfairly sidelined by a system that too often casts fathers as secondary parents? And what does this case reveal about the broader challenges of co-parenting, fame, and family in the age of social media? One thing is undeniable. This case is bigger than reality TV. It's a story that resonates because it mirrors the struggles of countless families' messy breakups, courtroom battles, the tug-of-war over children, and the desperate hope that, somehow, the kids will come out okay in the end. Martell and Melody's fame may magnify it, but the heart of the story is deeply human. It's about love, loss, responsibility, and resilience. The court has spoken, but the real test begins now. Will Martell and Melody rise to the challenge of co-parenting in peace? Or will the world be watching yet another season of chaos unfold? The spotlight is still on, the audience is still tuned in, and the next chapter is waiting to be written.